The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Good Thursday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? Well, we are ready for you. We got a great show planned. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. They should have been able to live. Danielle Hoyle and her newborn baby Kennedy should have been able to live. But instead, Danielle's mother is now forced to live without her daughter and without her grandbaby. Danielle's 10-year-old daughter has to grow up without her mother and her baby sister. It is so unfair. April Campbell told the jury that she got only 1 hour, just 1 hour, to love on little baby Kennedy before she was thrown into the river by her own father. That precious, helpless, beautiful baby angel was thrown out like yesterday's trash. And her own father is the one who murdered her. Just think about that. By throwing her into a river to drown. How I wish we could throw him into the river to drown. This case makes my blood boil. Makes me wish we had cruel and unusual punishment in America. Because killers like Brandon Isabel deserve it. He deserved the death penalty, in my opinion. I have no idea why the prosecutors didn't pursue it. But I have no doubt that he's going to be pursued in prison. That guy is going to have a target on his back for being a baby killer. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is a month where we empower survivors and we honor those people who are no longer with us. So this morning, let's think about Danielle Hoyle, and Kennedy Hoyle. May they rest in peace. May their loved ones know that their lives mattered. And may their families know that Danielle and Kennedy will never be forgotten. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
My husband, I don't know where he is. There are people that were here with on.
What's your husband's name?
Sam.
Okay. That's okay.
All right, in Michigan, we have got the home invasion hoax murder trial coming up for you. This is for defendants Joshua Hernandez and Carlos Zuzau. This resumes today. Court's going to get underway at 9 a.m. We're going to talk more about this case this morning here on Opening Statements, so stay tuned for that. In Georgia, we've got defendant Trinity Pogue with a motion hearing at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. She's a former pageant queen who's accused of murdering her boyfriend's toddler. And in Florida, court is dark until tomorrow morning in the murder trial of Daniel Stearns. The state is expected to rest its case tomorrow. Right now, let's turn to your top story this morning. A former Philadelphia homicide prosecutor is slamming the investigation into the death of Ellen Greenberg and says that if he had been on the case from the start, the case wouldn't be in limbo now. 27-year-old Ellen Greenberg was found dead in her apartment back in 2011 with some 20 stab wounds, some wounds even to her back. Her then fiance told police that he found her after he came back from the gym. He told police he had to break down the door in order to get inside. Here's part of the 911 call that he made, and this is courtesy of True Crime Garage TV.
I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched. Like it was, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside, and I'm yelling, and I'm
was
yelling.
Your house
and
broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Now, the fiancé, Sam Goldberg, was never, ever a suspect, and he has not been charged in Ellen Greenberg's death. So I want to be very clear about that. Look at this photo, though. Come to your TV set. Look at your screen right here. Does that door look busted in to you? Look at that lock there. He was saying that the part that swung over to the right was swung over to the left, is what he was saying that he had to force the door open in order to get inside. Let's bring in former homicide prosecutor in Pennsylvania, Guy D'Andrea. Guy reinvested this case on behalf of the family, and you can see him in the brand new Hulu docuseries on it as well. Guy, thank you for coming on Opening Statements this morning. I want to start with the door, if we can, please. Your thoughts on whether that door was in fact broken by Mr. Goldberg.
Thanks, Julie, for having me on. And of course, the door was always a bizarre fact because you showed a close-up of it in the video, the picture that you just showed. And if you notice, if you're looking at the door, the left-hand side, it looks like it's pulled out, right? But if you were to kick that door in, one of two things had to happen. Either the latching locking mechanism on the right frame would have to have come off, or on the actual door. One of those pieces would have to come off, like ripped out of the door frame or out of the door, in order for that door to be kicked in. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
I hear you, Guy. As I mentioned, you're in the new Hulu docuseries about this case. For anybody who hasn't seen it, I would highly recommend it. We've got a clip from the trailer. Let's watch.
So many errors happened in this case. You don't have investigation. You don't have a held crime scene.
That's not right. Does the evidence match the story that we're hearing? Pretty much all of that is negative. It is our responsibility to Ellen to find out the truth.
If you want to get away with a homicide, have it declared a suicide.
Death in Apartment 603. What happened to Ellen Greenberg? Only on Hulu.
Guy, it seems to me that this investigation was bungled in so many ways, starting with Sam Goldberg being vetted. Why do you think he wasn't properly vetted?
I believe he wasn't properly vetted because the police on scene, those investigating, just took his version whole cloth. And I have struggled so much why you would do that as a homicide detective when you come on scene and a woman is stabbed, as we know, over upwards of 20 times, right? You just take a version of events without vetting, without verifying, and just buy that story. And then the entire investigation from that point, or lack thereof, I should say, just snowballed into a horrific series of events that led to where we are now.
Guy, thank you for that. So I want to take a look at Sam Goldberg's statement. This was made to CNN. He said, when Ellen took her own life, it left me bewildered. She was a wonderful and kind person who had everything to live for. In the years that have passed, I have had to endure the pathetic and despicable attempts to desecrate my reputation by creating a narrative that embraces lies, distortions, and falsehoods. Now, we have a clip from Ellen Greenberg's dad, Josh Greenberg, at one of those big, important hearings in February after they took action against the city of Philadelphia, as you're well aware, Guy. Let's take a listen to some of what he said at that hearing date.
This was not a suicide. That's our number one thing. There was nothing else as important as that. Anything else we got was whatever, part of the game. But that was number one. And I was prepared to say, whatever money I spent is gone. I don't care about the money. I want Ellen's suicide taken care of.
You know, he mentions whatever we got. Guy, is some information being withheld?
Well, I don't know if it's being withheld. I know, obviously, Hulu could only, the docuseries can only cover so much, right? But there is pieces of evidence that I think are so critical to this story, one of which is The stab wound to one of the stab wounds to the back of the neck, Julie, was such that it actually pierced her dura, her spinal column. In other words, with the evidence, forget conspiracy theories, forget what people may think in terms of an opinion. Let's just look at the evidence and the factual predicates that could lead to a decision of what this was. The dura was pierced. We know that. We know that now. We've known that for years. And what that means is that it would render her, meaning Ellen, immediately incapacitated. We don't know the order of the stab wounds, of course, but we do know the last stab wound, and it was the one to the heart. And so even if the one to the neck was second to last, she would have been incapable by that piercing of the dura to stab herself in the chest. So that alone tells you exactly what this is and that it could not be a suicide.
This is fascinating information you're sharing with us, Guy. Another theory that's been brought up, I would love to hear your thoughts on it, is that she could have been possibly strangled to death. There were marks around her neck that could have indicated that may have been how she was killed, and that the wounds happened post-mortem, the stab wounds. What are your thoughts on that idea? That, I suppose that would mean that the stabbing was staged in the kitchen then, if she was, in fact, strangled first.
Sure. So there were so many issues with the medical examiner's report. I could go on and on and on. I don't know. I know we don't have the time for that. But yes, what was missed, and I don't know how, but what was missed is that she had strangulation marks to the strap muscles in her neck, which is usually indicative of manual strangulation. That was missed by the medical examiner in the autopsy and in the review of her body. And so that clearly shows, when it was talked about in terms of there wasn't a struggle, because that was a factor that led to the medical examiners flip-flopping and changing from homicide to suicide, that was missed, right? There was, in fact, it appears, some kind of struggle. There was also bruising on her wrist, which is indicative of someone grabbing or holding. I know you know that, Julie, right? And so there was, in fact, evidence that there was likely some kind or some form of struggle. And there's a whole host of other issues with the medical examiner's report, including making up that a neuropathologist examined Ellen's spinal column. That never happened, but yet it found its way into an official medical examiner's report.
Wow, I could talk to you all day about this, Guy. Yes, so many questions with this. Would you please come back, because we're going to stay on this story, and we know October 14th is a big day legally for the Greenberg family, and we'll see what's revealed then. But let's talk again. Attorney Guy D'Andrea, thank you so much for the great conversation.
Thank you.
See you soon. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got.
She didn't know what it was, but she knew that he had broken ribs and that he had taken a huge amount of crushing force to his little body. And, so I took my dog home in a box that evening and cried, with my mother.
Oh, this is so sad. So the owner of the dog that was allegedly killed by Tyrese Gibson's cane corsos is speaking to Court TV this morning. And former University of Kentucky cheerleader Laken Snelling went to McDonald's hours after allegedly hiding her dead baby in a closet. We'll be right back.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Now, this is the neighborhood where the dog attack occurred. Now, Tyrese Gibson, of course, owns those 4 big cane corso dogs.
I was so confused. I'm like, why is my dog not breathing, and why is he wet? I panicked. He had broken ribs and that he had taken a huge amount of crushing force.
Actor Tyrese Gibson is taking full responsibility for a fatal dog attack, as we're learning more about this case and his dogs. The Fast and the Furious actor is finding himself as a trending topic this morning. Here's why.
I've been in here for 4 hours. My ribs are showing. I don't know about y'all, but I'm out.
I wouldn't recommend that.
What?
Well, thanks to your botched Berlin job, you all made Interpol's top 10 most wanted list.
Top 10?
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Well, not you, Roman.
Tyrese Gibson, known for his recurring role as Roman in the Fast and the Furious movie franchise, is a wanted man this morning in Georgia for cruelty to animals. That's right, a warrant was issued by police for what they call an ongoing issue with the actor whose 4 Cane Corso dogs were causing safety concerns, police say, near his Atlanta mansion. Now, this was some footage released to TMZ by the Fulton County Police Department showing Gibson's dogs roaming free in his neighborhood. Moments later, police believe that the dogs rushed over to a neighbor's home while another dog was being let out, and police believe that's what led to the attack. Now, Gibson's attorney issued a statement after the incident, sending condolences to the family for their loss and reassuring that Gibson will take full responsibility for his dogs. In another statement to the Associated Press, the attorney representing Tyrese Gibson said that he is fully cooperating with authorities to address and resolve the matter responsibly. So this morning, we're asking, why hasn't Tyrese turned himself in to clear that warrant and clear this mess up? This is awful. Let's bring in our power panel. With me, high-profile attorney John Phillips, entertainment commentator Ellen Reed, and retired police lieutenant and canine expert Mike Gould. Good morning to you all. Oh my, Lieutenant, let's start with you. You're the owner of Houndstown USA Dogs. Dogs are your life. You were the commander of the Nassau County Police Canine Unit. Nobody loves dogs more than you. Your thoughts on this tragedy?
Right. So thank you for having me, Julie. So this isn't upsetting to me. This is infuriating to me because this is not a case of criminal intent. This is a case of ignorance, whether it's a celebrity or my neighbor next door. If they don't, it's never, when I testify in court regularly on very, very similar cases, sometimes involving children, adults, my opening statement always is, it's never the dog. It's always the dog owner. This was mismanagement. It has nothing to do with training. These are 400-pound predators that don't really necessarily see very well. They're triggered by movement. So unfortunately, this little dog looked like a prey item, and they killed him, and it's very unfortunate. The truth is, children, small children, are the #1 victims of these things. So I'm beside myself. We care for 4,000 dogs a day at our Houndstown facilities throughout the country, including Cane Corsos, Mastiffs, Rottweilers. 3 things. In real estate, it's location, location, location. With dogs, it's socialization, socialization, socialization. This should have never happened. And if anybody ever reached out to me involving this case, I'll tell you they do not need to be euthanized.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, and Lieutenant, I got to ask you the follow-up. Tell me why not?
Because we know that they're not inherently vicious, or they wouldn't have lived as long as they have, 1 or 2 years. When they got out of their enclosure, their yard, they're free roaming a pack of animals, working with their natural pack instincts. So, Julie, dogs don't make moral decisions. They're incapable of that. So they don't know the little dog from a rabbit. When they bite humans, they don't know the burglar from your next door neighbor again. So this was mismanagement. It's not training. If these dogs separately were properly managed, and which they should be rehomed. I guarantee you, they do not need to be euthanized. And they work, our little French bulldogs at home, when you squeak a squeaky toy, their instincts to kill it are triggered. And they do, they take the squeaker out of it. So these are all dogs, but if we have 4 French bulldogs, they're not gonna cause any damage. I don't think they'll be able to our dogs wouldn't even be able to bite our ankles, Julie. So yeah, this gets me crazy.
Boy, really appreciate this. Is helpful insight. Lieutenant Gould, thank you so much. You mentioned location and socialization. Ellen Reed, of course, I want to go to you on this. You are Miss Atlanta. You know Atlanta so well. You're beloved there. This is where this happened. Really nice. The Buckhead area. Would you kind of describe for us what this area is like? A lot of celebrities there, right?
Absolutely, Julie. Good morning. And you are a dog lover, as am I. I have to give a shout out to Woodford and Hugo, my babies. They're with their mom right now. But my dog Woodford was an anti-leash dog, and we got in a lot of trouble with that. When you live in a really nice neighborhood in Atlanta, first of all, Atlanta and Georgia alone, they do not play with these dog laws, the leash laws. You have to have your dog on a leash. This is a owner's worst nightmare on both sides of the coin. And Cane Corsos are not to be played with. I have several friends that have them, and I'm not saying that I'm terrified of them, but you don't know, as with the previous guest just said, it's not about, they don't know the differentiation between a rabbit or a small animal. They're going to go into attack mode or defense mode, whatever they're feeling. They do not have that moral compass. But yes, Atlanta is not to be played with. Georgia is not to be played with when it comes to the dog laws. Keep your dogs on a leash. Dog parks as well. That's why they keep them separate in a lot of these parks. They have the small dog area and the big dog area for that reason.
Right. Great points, Holland. Yeah, and something that we confirmed this morning is that there has been, at least in the meantime, rehoming of those cane corsos. So we know that much. So that seems like one step in the right direction. But John Phillips, I want to go to you on the legal point here. The warrant, we still have the outstanding warrant here. Talk to me, John, your thoughts.
It's an interesting case. When you first hear animal cruelty, you think of, and particularly in Georgia, you think of Michael Vick. You think of somebody doing something to harm animals or put animals in harm's way. And actually what Georgia law says is if you cause pain, suffering, or death to an animal through unjustified acts, omissions, or neglect, then you have this. And these cane corso dogs are like bodybuilder dogs. Like they're big dogs. And by contrast, the victim dog was a Cavalier Spaniel. We have a Cavapoo named Bailey. Like, they're beautiful, beautiful dogs, and small. And so you have all of the things for this misdemeanor to be proven. And I think they wanted to, Tyrese and his legal team wanted to regroup and try to get ahead of it. And here we are.
Great points, John. So we saw a little picture of the dog that was killed. His name was Henry. Court TV was able to speak to Henry's owner. He describes for us his frustrations with Tyrese Gibson, with the safety issues that were created by these dogs running loose. Let's take a listen.
The dangerous animals, and Mr. Gibson was very aware of that, and the fact they were out like 5 times before, sometimes during the day, they could have gotten into somebody just walking their dog on the street. Yeah, it's inexcusable. It's a different ballpark, right? Like, this is somebody who just knowingly did not care and was also aware of what they're capable of. I mean, it's just those two things that come together that makes this so, in my opinion, heinous.
Oh my, this is just so sad. That little dog, Henry, that was killed was a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Oh my gosh, is he precious. He looks like a stuffed animal. He's so cute. This is heartbreaking. And our next question to the power panel is, how in the world does Tyrese Gibson make up for this? He promised to try to take full responsibility for everything. He's fully cooperating, but the dog can't be brought back. John Phillips, let me start with you this time. Legally, how do you fix things?
You got criminal, civil, the court of public opinion. The criminal is a misdemeanor, and they're going to watch and see what happens between him and the victim. The civil, in most cases, a dog's value is actually its retail value. It's not the pain, it's not the suffering, it's not a family member. And you have a victim here that's truly upset. And so there needs to be some, collaboration and apology that's meaningful. And then you have the court of public opinion, which is what we're dealing with right now. So justice is spelled one way, it's defined many different ways. And Tyrese Gibson and his team have a long way to go to make this right.
Yeah, they really do. Holland, I would love to ask you about that. The sentiment coming from people in Atlanta, in the communities, in the Buckhead community in particular. What are you hearing in terms of people responding to this incident?
I just in a few private conversations, again, it is the worst fear of an owner, but I also want to kind of touch on one tiny thing. Having these big, very massive, very muscular dogs, as was stated, is a status symbol, and having those cane corsos and these extremely strong dogs, very, very aggressive dogs, so to speak, is a status symbol, but also having those little babies, those little stuffed you know, like the Cavapoos, my mother has one, is also a status symbol, but you got to be very clear and aware that these two breeds, these two status symbols are completely different beasts. So I think the conversation is leash your dog, keep your dog on a leash. Do not approach these dogs if you do not have permission by the owners. And also, you know, as far as them roaming around in your neighborhood, your yard, having those systems in place that keeps everyone's status symbol protected.
Yeah, great points, Holland. Thank you. Lieutenant Gould, I want to end the segment with you. Would you take us home here? Your thoughts on how Tyrese Gibson fixes this damage?
Takes responsibility, gets educated, and frankly, just push back a little bit. I've never discriminated against a dog in the 50 years or 45 years I've been involved with dogs, including police canines. It's analogous to discrimination of humans. The dog brain is the dog brain, whether it's in the head of a Cavapoo or a pit bull. They are identical. The problem is their size and genetic predisposition, and when they're put in a pack, they hunt. That's what they do. We specialize in putting dogs in proper packs. Based on age, size, and temperament. We have, as I said, 30% of the dogs that come to Houndstown are all types of mutated dogs, whether they're German Shepherds. So it's not, again, just to emphasize, not the dog. He needs to take responsibility. Anybody watching this thinks these dogs are inherently dangerous. Of course, the pet owner does. They have to take responsibility. It's like handing a gun to a 5-year-old child. And so it's just mismanagement, simple, plain and simple.
Right, right. And I was thinking, Lieutenant, because I'm looking at John Phillips's screen there. John, would you hold up again? Is that your little fur baby?
That's our little Bailey. That's our Cavapoo dressed as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. So please don't say that's cruelty to animals. Making our poor dog a Jaguars fan.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Oh, what a little sweetheart. Yeah, I could talk with all of you about dogs all day. I was saying to my team, this is so heartbreaking because you feel for this dog owner who lost his little baby. That little Henry was just the cutest thing in the world. And like you said, Lieutenant, this is a really enlightening conversation that it's the people that need trained. Isn't that the moral of the story? The people need to be trained on the way to care for their dogs and manage their dogs. We can't fault the dogs for being bad. They need to be properly guided. Lieutenant, I wish you could come to my house and train my little French bulldog. She needs it. We'll leave it there. Lieutenant Mike Gould, Attorney John Phillips, entertainment commentator Holland Reed, thank you all so much. Still to come here on Opening Statements.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brandon Marshall on behalf of call number 80, Lake and Snow.
Dates are, see this, Friday 5th, 12th, 19, or 26 if you want to wait time.
26 and we will wait time, sir.
The college cheerleader accused of hiding her dead baby in a closet is back in our spotlight this morning, this time for the shocking activities that she did just hours after giving birth. Plus, wild new body camera footage showing a woman, her hands bound by duct tape after her husband was allegedly killed by fake utility workers. Well, those two guys are now on trial in Michigan. We'll break down the case and what's tipping the scales.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Ms. Nellie, you just heard your attorney state that it's your desire to waive this matter to the Fayette County Grand Jury. You understood you got a right to have a preliminary hearing this morning, but it is your desire to waive this matter at this time. Okay. I know that you have posted in electronic monitoring, residing with parents, all of that still in place, correct? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have brand new information to share with you this morning in the case against a former University of Kentucky cheerleader named Laken Snelling. So she is facing charges after her newborn baby was found dead in a trash bag inside of her closet. According to an affidavit, on August 27th, Snelling gave birth to a baby boy who fell out on the floor of her bedroom around 4 a.m. Okay, she says that she didn't think that the baby was alive. Then she says she passed out and says she fell on top of the baby. When she awoke, the baby boy was turning blue and purple. She says she fell back to sleep, and when she woke up again around 7:30, she wrapped the baby in a towel and put the placenta in a Ziploc bag. She then put everything in a black trash bag and stashed it in her closet. Snelling then skipped class and went to McDonald's. When she was away, her roommates, who heard loud noises coming from the room when she was giving birth, went into her room and they found a blood-soaked towel on the floor. They then called 911. She was arrested last month and is charged with abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and concealing the birth of an infant. Her case is heading to a grand jury after she waived her right to a preliminary hearing last week. So we're wondering, are more charges going to be added? Because remember, she's not facing murder charges, not facing manslaughter charges, no homicide charges whatsoever. She's just facing charges for what happened after the birth. So the abuse of the corpse after the fact, the obstruction of justice after the fact. But what about beforehand? What do these actions indicate? Let's bring in our legal eagles, attorneys John Phillips and Michael J. Brown. All right, let's talk about what comes next for Ms. Snelling. Michael, do you think more charges?
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, John. Absolutely, Julie. I think they're simply waiting for the medical examiner's report, the finality of that, to see if they can get her on a homicide. They absolutely want to go forward with a homicide. And some of the real important evidence that they have are the fact that these searches show that she's concealing the pregnancy, so she doesn't want anybody to know. And then you have these apparent photographs after or during the childbirth, which have apparently been deleted. So she's trying to hide that as well. So once they have the final autopsy report, and they can, I think, establish the cause of death and then attribute that potentially to the defendant, I think absolutely you'll see additional charges, including homicide, if not manslaughter, potentially murder as well.
Michael, thank you for that. So the affidavit did detail some of what they found from her phone. So let's kind of go through a little bit of this. The examination of the phone by Lexington police turned up several searches, including different things pertaining to pregnancy. Included evidence of concealed or hidden pregnancy. She also, this is really bizarre, took photos of herself while in labor, according to the affidavit. The affidavit also alleges there were images of her during labor, photos of her doing things that ordinary pregnant women should not be doing on their phone. John Phillips, I want to get your thoughts. Are some of these phone searches going to sink Laken Snelling?
Yes, you know, once you start getting into the mens rea, right? You're trying to get into the head of what she was thinking, why she did what she did, and this isn't the ordinary mom taking pictures or videos of the baby, you know, kind of making a punching bag out of the belly, so to speak, and you know, this childbirth process, and I was there for all three of mine being born, you know, is very painful and is very messy. And so where did all of that go? And I just don't buy the statement that, you know, and I know this is going to be a topic, I think, later, but who cut the umbilical cord? How was it cut? Where you know, how did all this go down? But, you know, you don't want to, we're not supposed to know any of that because this was supposed to have never have happened.
Right. Great points, John. And so police obviously interviewed Laken Snelling's roommates, and they all said that they had suspicions of her being pregnant, but that she never confirmed it to them. During one of the interviews, one of the residents of the home said that it was around 4 a.m., and one of the roommates sent around a message in this group chat saying she was hearing loud noises, sounded like something had fallen. Another roommate said she heard the noises too, and that whatever was causing them was so forceful, it knocked a picture off her wall. And then another roommate said the noises lasted for about an hour. Let's talk about what was going on. Does that sound like childbirth or maybe something more forceful? You know, the statement that she supposedly made about falling on the baby, I can't get past that, Michael J. Brown. I just can't unhear that statement. Your thoughts, please.
Julie, I don't know if necessarily that hour of loud noise and whatnot means that anything nefarious is happening because, remember, she's by herself. There's no medical personnel. She doesn't have a significant other with her. So she could be going through the struggles of childbirth. So that in and of itself, I don't think is problematic. Because, and again, if there was those injuries noted on the child, I think we would have that homicide charge already. If that loud thud meant that there was a significant bruise or abrasion to the child causing the death, I think we would have been there already. I think we're waiting for more details from the autopsy report. And I think they're probably looking for some type of suffocation if I had to guess on this. And that's something that's going to take a little bit of time. And once they have that, again, I think they'll go forward with it.
That's a great theory, Michael. That would really support her statement. I mean, we think about that when she's saying she fell on top of the baby. So it sounds like she's saying the baby was born alive. Why she didn't call 911, go to a hospital, I have no idea. But yeah, suffocation, that's really interesting as a theory of how, Michael, in your experience with homicides, when you said this may take a little longer, pinpointing that cause of death, have you, in your experience, found that to be tougher to pinpoint?
Yeah, it is tough because you're dealing with a child, you're dealing with an infant, you're not dealing with additional information that's corroborative of that. I had a case with the father was ingesting marijuana-laced THC, and it had, I forgot what the extra component was, but it was a deadly component. He was blowing that into the face of the infant child, subsequently causing the death. And it just takes time. You have to have a real good toxicologist to be able to dive into that and extract those results, which could lead to that prosecution.
Wow, that's fascinating. That is really fascinating. Thank you for that. Well, if we hear anything else about Lakin Snelling's case, of course, we're going to report it right here. Great discussion with you both. Stand by, gentlemen. More questions coming your way. We'll hit a break. Here's what's next.
Or DTE, we're checking for gas leaks.
So what could tip the scales in the home invasion murder trial for these two defendants? We'll talk about it next.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Let's talk about what's tipping the scales of justice. We got some shocking allegations happening in a Michigan courtroom where two men are accused of murdering 72-year-old Hussein Murray. He was the owner of a jewelry store, and the suspects posed as utility workers to gain entry to his home. Prosecutors say that the men claimed that there was a gas leak at the house. And look at this. It was all captured on Ring doorbell camera video. Now look here. Looks like a legitimate interaction with the gas company, right? Look how they're dressed, look at the documentation, but it wasn't. It was a ruse. Police arrived at the home to find the man's wife alive, but she was bound.
My husband and I don't live here. There were people that were here with us.
What's your husband's name?
Sam.
Okay. It's okay.
Now the two suspects are on trial accused of murder. So how will the new video evidence tip the scales of justice? Let's bring in our legal eagles, Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Okay, John, what do you think? What does that surveillance video do for the case?
Somebody asked me yesterday if I still get surprised by cases I either comment on or work on, and I was like, the answer is yes. Every single day is a new, crazy set of facts. And this is one. And thank God for Ring and what it's done to kind of help us, solve crime and tell stories. And this one is just wild. I was reading through the narrative summary and it was just twist after twist after twist. But, I hate to always say it seems like an open and shut case because, you're innocent until proven guilty. But it seems like they've got the prosecution has a pretty good case.
Mm-hmm, definitely. No, I know. It's sometimes, I know we've all been there. We've won cases we should have lost cases we should have won. You never know what the jury will do. But the video is pretty clear, looks pretty bad. Michael J. Brown, for these defendants, looking at it from that perspective, these attorneys representing them have quite a challenge, do they not?
They do, Julie. The only out I saw, I don't think Michigan has the felony murder statute, which we have in New York and most states have. So what that means is, of course, if you're going into the house and your intent is to commit a felony, and during the commission of the felony, somebody gets killed, well, now you're guilty of murder. In that particular state, I don't believe they have it. And what's the out? The out is the defense attorneys are going to point the finger at each other, and they're going to say, he's the one who did it. I didn't know that that this was going to be the result. My only ambition or goal was to do a robbery. I had no intent to kill. I didn't know what he was going to do. And therefore, they're going to play for that robbery or burglary charge, which is a lot less significant, albeit still significant, but a lot less significant than the murder charge.
Great points. Boy, Michael, thank you for that. That's something to listen for as we listen to what the defense says if they choose to present. What has everybody talking, I want to talk to you both about, of course, and that is the optics and the very large stature of defendant Carlos Hernandez, just towering over all of the deputies, all of the attorneys, everybody in the courtroom. He looks like he could be in a WWE wrestling ring or something. Just a very large guy. What does that do for the jury on a case like this? These optics here, did they look at him as big and scary because he is a really large guy? John, what do you think?
Yeah, there's two things. One, certainly he's got the tattoos, he's got the stature, but, a defense could embrace it. Sometimes you embrace the bad facts and be like, well, but, nobody identified this beast of a man, prior to this. And I don't know the particular facts, but he is a very large, kind of menacing looking gentleman. But, you kind of move along. Like, Keith Mitnick, a trial lawyer down here in Florida, always talks about embracing the horror. Like you hit the point and then you move on.
Mm-hmm. Sure. John, you used a great word, menacing. I was saying to my colleagues, Michael, I'd love to know what you do in practice when you have this happen. I was saying I'd keep him seated as much as possible, keep him sitting down. What do you think? What would you do with a guy like this if he's your client?
Probably keep him in his cell. No, what I would do, Julie, is I would...
That too.
Obviously, you want to shave. You want to dress him appropriately the best you can. John pointed out a great point about the tattoos, and if you have a turtleneck, if it comes that high, you want to try to conceal that, and maybe even put some glasses on, give him some intelligence. So there are things that you want to do from an optical standpoint and a perception standpoint that will kind of soften the blow and make your client look softer to the jury to try to defeat the initial human perception or assumptions that you pointed out earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And especially with the nature of this case, too. We're not talking about a paper case, some kind of a, just a theft alone. Robberies and an assault and a theft, as you gentlemen know. And so, yeah, bad facts for these defendants. And we're going to watch them soon as live court's set to start up any minute. And speaking of court, you two fine gentlemen have cases you got to win. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, thank you for a great show today. We'll see you again next week. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.